If you ever wanted to tell your boss to go to that place and never come back, know that there is a movement of people who are doing just that. This transformative phenomenon has gained strength in recent years, echoing through office corridors, resonating in the minds of workers worldwide, and striking fear into the hearts of employers. A movement that challenges conventional notions about employment, career, and professional satisfaction, known as the Great Resignation. The Great Resignation is not just a wave of mass resignations. It is a revolution in the minds and hearts of workers. It is the realization that life is more than a monthly paycheck. It is the understanding that the balance between personal and professional life is a necessity, not a luxury. It is precisely this mindset that drives one of the largest labor market movements in recent years. This phenomenon, which has spread to various countries around the world, is the result of many people realizing they are not satisfied with their jobs and coming to the conclusion that the best course of action is to resign and seek something better. Taking the expression, "if you're not happy, leave," literally, this wave of voluntary resignations has already reached countries such as the United States, China, the United Kingdom, and even Brazil. But why exactly have people suddenly decided to resign, even in countries where job opportunities are not exactly abundant? And what has happened to those who decided to quit their jobs in search of better conditions? Are they finally happy? There are many reasons why people leave their jobs to start a new life. Financial reasons, personal dissatisfaction, and changing situations may be some of the reasons that lead us to reflect on our current position and where we want to go. Whatever the reason, resigning is almost never easy, but in recent years, some things seem to be changing, and the reality in the corporate world is no longer the same as it was 10 years ago. An example of this is that in the United States, a new movement has been taking shape and spreading rapidly as a major phenomenon. Known as the Great Resignation, this new scenario has gained strength and vitality recently. This revolutionary movement involves a growing number of individuals leaving their professional positions in various sectors. The events of 2020 disrupted the routine but also invited each individual to dive into a kind of introspection, reevaluating priorities and setting new life goals. Perhaps for this reason, in 2021, over 47 million Americans voluntarily left their jobs. Although the mass voluntary resignation movement of workers does not have a precise start in the timeline, the abrupt change certainly triggered a domino effect nationwide. But Americans were not the only ones making this decision. In the United Kingdom, the peak of mass resignations occurred in the second quarter of 2022, with a record of over 400,000 resignations. Additionally, the number of inactive people, those who are not working either by force of circumstances, by their own decision, or simply because they are not actively seeking employment, also increased by over 500,000 compared to pre-pandemic times. The term Great Resignation was first coined in 2021 by the renowned management professor Anthony Klotz of Texas A&M University, who conducted in-depth studies on the departure of hundreds of workers from their jobs. According to him, the atypical situation faced in those years led to a deeper reflection on where, how, and why we work. Free time, which was once scarce, came as a blank canvas for millions of people to consider a new range of possibilities. However, this scenario not only caused the movement of workers leaving, but also prompted large companies to rethink their work schedules. To convince employees to keep their positions, some measures were taken. More companies began prioritizing the well-being of their employees and proposing reduced working hours or even remote work, a modality that fit perfectly into the times of social distancing. It seems that the traditional workplace no longer appeals as much as before. The old corporate culture of employees being physically present in the office, sitting at their desks, and solely focused on team productivity is no longer as well regarded. But could it be only the pursuit of new opportunities that would lead these individuals to no longer accept certain behaviors, or are the new generations simply too lazy and sensitive? It may seem like fussiness, but it isn't. Modern society has changed and demands an incessant pursuit of productivity, where every minute becomes too precious to waste. After all, time is money. The competition for job positions is becoming increasingly fierce, while on the other hand, millions of workers face an exhausting workload that often seems to make little sense and is not aligned with the personal goals of the majority. This leads us to believe that the phenomenon of mass voluntary resignations is not recent and was not solely motivated by the pandemic, but rather by a set of factors that precede it. As early as 2017, a Gallup Institute survey revealed that over 50% of the American workforce was dissatisfied with their jobs, and consequently, looking for new opportunities. This was favored by an unemployment rate of almost 5% and a wave of new hirings. Another survey by the same institute, conducted in 2019, revealed that the percentage of workers who considered themselves dedicated to their jobs was only 14% among Americans and 15% globally, highlighting the lack of connection between workers and their jobs. A survey by the Lokomotiva Institute shows that some factors can drive this movement, such as the lack of alignment between work and personal values and goals, the absence of career growth opportunities, exhausting work overload, and the lack of autonomy and control over individual responsibilities. These combined elements create an environment conducive to demotivation and undermine the engagement of any worker. All these combined factors often lead to much larger long-term psychological consequences, such as burnout syndrome, also known as professional burnout syndrome, which has become a widespread phenomenon in various workplaces. A survey by the Stress Management Association pointed out that in 2019, more than 30% of the economically active population of the world faced the problem of stress-related burnout in the workplace. With the pandemic, this number increased exponentially. In countries like Brazil, in the years 2021 and 2022, over 80% of the population claimed to feel truly exhausted after a day of work. In addition to exhaustion, feelings of frustration were also recurrent in more than 50% of workers. In the case of women, the scenario in the years 2021 and 2022 was even worse. Social isolation considerably accentuated the difficulties faced by the female audience, which found itself overwhelmed with additional responsibilities compared to men. With the closure of schools and the increase in the number of sick people, the need to take care of family members fell largely on women, resulting in a significant increase in tasks. Over 40% of them reported working even more during the quarantine period. It is a fact that work relationships have been transformed and, in some cases, precarized, intensifying stress and, consequently, worker frustration. However, a survey conducted in 2022 with Brazilians by the human resources consulting firm EDC Groups showed again that the desire for transition was not merely a response to necessity. The numbers indicate that more than half of the respondents from various sectors had already lost interest in the activities they were performing even before the isolation period. During this time, many people ended up discovering new skills or even an aptitude for taking on new roles within their work environment. After all, the need to adapt to keep the economy operating took many people out of their comfort zones. In addition to the dissatisfaction of those who were already in the job market, a study conducted by LinkedIn in the first half of 2023 revealed that almost 70% of young Americans from Generation Z, also known as digital natives, stated that they plan to leave their jobs over the year. This trend indicates that even after overcoming the global health crisis, young workers remain dissatisfied and seek new opportunities and professional environments more aligned with their aspirations and values. It is not surprising when we consider that Generation Z is the most educated in history, naturally leading them to seek a sense of purpose in their careers. Facing an increasingly competitive and dynamic job market, this generation seeks to stand out and find a balance between their professional ambitions and a meaningful life. This may be mistaken for a generation that is lazy and does not like to work, but ultimately, what they want is personal satisfaction. Moreover, the reasons for people resigning have diversified due to new perspectives. An example of this is that some professionals no longer want to accept positions that require constant presence in the workplace, as they understand that in some specific cases, remote work does meet the essential demands. In countries where the cost of living is relatively low and job offers are considerable, seeking professional repositioning that aligns with one's values and satisfies them is almost a logical path. In an economic scenario where the cost of living is still high and unemployment rates are still elevated, it might be considered that people would tend to hold on more and accept more precarious job positions. However, this is not what research shows in countries like Italy and Spain. In Brazil, this movement has already arrived, but data shows that in this country, the profile of the movement is a bit different. In Brazil, workers are also choosing to abandon their careers. The phenomenon of the Great Resignation reveals a clear picture of change that surpasses barriers and economic factors once considered social limitations. It seems that the fear of working without purpose has outweighed the fear of not working. In Spain, a country where the unemployment rate surpassed 13% in 2022, the voluntary exit movement of workers began to gain strength in the same year, albeit more modestly compared to the United States. Nevertheless, it managed to attract attention. The Spanish government started showing concern when it realized that almost 110,000 job positions remained unfilled. In contrast, over 30,000 people voluntarily resigned from their jobs in 2021 in the European country. In Italy, nearly 500,000 people opted for voluntary resignation, just in the second quarter of 2021. Unemployment there almost reached 10% of the economically active population, but this did not prevent a rather curious trend. Many young people and entrepreneurs from various sectors decided to leave the hectic city life for the tranquility of the countryside. Among the main reasons for leaving the city and seeking the countryside, some workers mentioned the stress of daily life and the frenetic working hours that seemed never-ending. The Great Resignation phenomenon also reached Brazil at the same time as unemployment affected more than 12 million Brazilians according to official government data. However, the fact is that in Brazil, the wave of resignations occurs in a somewhat different way. According to data from the international consulting agency Blue Management Institute, in Brazil, most resignations occurred among professionals with completed higher education, a contrast with what happened in the United States, where even less qualified workers have been leaving their jobs. This pattern difference between the two countries reveals interesting nuances of the Great Resignation phenomenon in each context. In 2022 alone, almost 7 million Brazilians voluntarily resigned, equivalent to the entire population of the state of Maranhão, representing 1/3 of the total separations recorded nationwide, according to the General Registry of Employed and Unemployed. Among workers with a postgraduate degree, voluntary resignations exceeded 50%. According to the economist at the consulting agency LCA Consultores, Bruno Emazumi, this movement is due to people normalizing their routines and seeking jobs more in line with their areas of expertise. For Bruno, there are two Brazils in the formal job market. The majority consists of those basic workers with little education, but those with a bit more qualification end up having greater bargaining power. The movement of professionals has affected all sectors of the market, especially the technology sector, which still faces a greater shortage of qualified labor. This, in a way, favors professionals seeking to reposition themselves in this sector. With more than 200,000 positions open, the high demand for professionals creates an environment of war for labor, causing excellent opportunities to arise constantly, leaving it up to professionals to select the best ones. In general, this movement has shown that workers no longer want to live solely for work, and most importantly, they want to find flexibility in their work schedules, leading to a search for this balance and the courage to face new opportunities. In various countries, people from different social classes have experienced the wave of the Great Resignation, causing a real upheaval in the world of work as we knew it. With an almost romantic and utopian air, this movement seemed like the answer to workers' nightmares, but there were some underlying data in these surveys. Already in 2021, an American study pointed out that 80% of employees who left their jobs regretted it. The human resources agency Paychecks, which conducted the research, revealed that all the respondents are currently employed, but it took them months to reposition themselves in the market, and apparently, things haven't changed that much. Those who resigned during the Great Resignation have just over a 10% chance of being more satisfied with their new salaries than with what they earned before. Half of the workers responded that they are satisfied with their new workplace. While for the younger Generation Z, issues like mental health and the balance between personal and professional life did not improve that much. A resignation will close a professional cycle, and this can have significant consequences in various spheres of personal and professional life. Having a well-structured action plan is important, with clear objectives and an understanding of the paths that need to be taken to reach the desired destination. Trying to establish a dialogue with the employer should be planned most of the time, since no company wants to lose a good employee, and the strain will be on both parties. Certainly, the Great Resignation movement has sounded an alert to the market about toxic management models, and has also served as a warning to workers, showing that not all market trends confirm themselves. After all, the grass is not always greener on the other side, and it is essential to be aware that high expectations may not be met in a new position or company. What do you think of this movement that is changing concepts and causing many people to simply quit their jobs for a less hectic lifestyle? Do you see any benefits in this? Comment below and take a look at what people are saying about it. Now, to find out how China is trying to dethrone Airbus and Boeing, and how they intend to dominate the aviation market, check out the video on the screen. For this video, that's it. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with a friend. A big hug and see you next time. Do you know which business model offers high profit margins, immense scalability, and requires low initial investment? The startup market specializing in software development is the optimal choice to bring together all these advantages. However, the only place where you will truly find a highly scalable service that demands low investment is with Roadmap. Roadmap has global experience providing consulting and developing apps for startups in the United States, Europe, and Latin America, making it by far the best option for new entrepreneurs. If you want to venture into the premier market, contact Roadmap right away through the website www.roadmap.co/home or via email at contact@roadmap.co.